I've decided to add this recording to today's activities when Greta spoke in Milan. Because she's being a mentor to a generation that needs to find its heart. She understands that we're sending children into a destructive impasse by a refusal to heed experts and allow for mentors to guide us intelligently. And I realized something that I've never been able to quite put my finger on, which regards my memory of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Some people have accepted the characterization of his administration as Camelot. But it seems to me it was more a mentorship. He took seriously the idea that the presidency was a mentor for the human race. He was a mentor for the United States at the very least. In the odious lampoon that was made of me, to complement his assassination through the Carousel Club's methods of generational hostility for the freedoms of teenagers. I was wrecked as a child and made to feel if I didn't make love now, I'd be dead the next day. And this was enculturated in me so that they could herd me towards their terrifying experiment in justifying that terrible attack of theirs. And it continues to play out because now home invasion allows people to detect my distillation of pornography. I see pornography as a form of domesticity. It's just nursing yourself. And I don't have it in for the actresses. There is some things that I've read about the way that the men are doing what they're doing in terms of abusive sex tours. I certainly don't subscribe to any of that. Pitt didn't come and say to me, "Do you want a semester sex program?" I would have said no. I would never have touched Rosa if she had made clear to me that she was buying time for the AIDS attack to work and to set it up for another one, a follow-up bonus attack. I never would have touched her. I don't care how pretty she was. And the whole thing was a fraud. They were sticking me with the idea of her virginity. I didn't know she was a virgin. It didn't occur to me. I'd never in my life had contact with a virgin except that terrible agent that was working with Shulman on this horrible project, the Two Virgins Pussy Ball. I mean, the Green Party is maniacal. It's not a mentor. You know, I can see the teenage mindset that so gravely impugned me as a dictator for going into seizures and suffocating. I mean, this isn't pretend. This is an injury. And they were setting it off and detonating it to toy with it. And then they justified it by saying that type of person. This is why we killed JFK, you know. I mean, it doesn't really congru. And they wired it up in the, you know, representation of their industry as revenge for Hiroshima, which means that, like, man's inhumanity, the man begins in the womb and ends up detonating into an atomic explosion. And this comes from somebody named Gail Carolyn Burston, which is the homophone for Christian Armageddonism. Gay illness, Christmas caroling bombs bursting. Oh. And surely these people can't believe themselves. They're just making it work. It's like a British Limerick military. So, you know, obviously I'm not going to buy into that nonsense. You know, it comes from the minds of John Lennon and his pals. And all this stuff, you know. And they have to, they would owe if they admitted that they killed Kennedy. So they admit it and then say they killed, that Lennon died. So it's back to square one. But it was a trick. And the reason we know it was a trick was because they made it clear that it was a trick. And how can you not know? So it's a curious adventure and mind control to create a substitute reality and force people to adopt it while turning over the control panel to the people who killed JFK and the nation's enemies. Now, what makes them the enemies, if you look at Common Cause, okay, Kennedy wanted to advocate for black people. So when they install Obama over Martin Luther King, it's because Martin Luther King and JFK were ahead of their time, okay? They were too soon to want to save the planet and the human race. First, we've got to do some Hitler stuff. So, Greta realizes that all of this effort should have happened before. But they're saying, well, we are ready now to listen to Greta. And that's the social history of the problem. I don't blame Greta for doing what she's doing. None of us who have stood in her shoes blame her. We're thrilled that she is getting through. But we still need to look at the social system that waited and is still hostile to change. And the reason why some of them are more receptive to Greta now is because they feel that they got a chance to make it easier for Greta's hopes to play out effectively. And it's all been this fossil fuel giant stuff. Fossil fuel. Anytime anybody wanted to try to change anything for the better, to build, you know, ecological understanding in schools that created mentors who could explain to people why sometimes you let things just grow, why sometimes you don't kill insects, why you let bees live, was drummed out. And we need to reconsider all that. We need to have mentors, echo schools, people who understand that we have to find our heart, keep our carbon footprint down to a minimum. We don't need to get into cars growling and feeling them vibrating. What we need to do is learn to live peacefully with one another and accept the world around us and learn to reacquaint ourselves with the beauty and pleasures of nature as nature. So there's a lot of expertise that needs to get around. We need expert people to circulate. We need people who know what needs to be done to circulate among us. We need to think about one another and about what we're doing. I have nothing against saying you need to be gentlemen when it comes to courtship, and you need to be gentlemen towards other people's domesticity. I have nothing against any of that. It was a fabrication to accuse me of adultery when they did back when I was in my 20s. The person who was on a college bench with me told me only that she had a roommate. I assumed it was another girl. Then she explained it was an arranged marriage. What was it arranged for? So this dude could study nuclear stuff at Pitt, and so that they could set up the Green Party pussy ball that justified killing my father, that justified killing Roberta, that justified killing JFK and Bobby Kennedy, and gave all of the power to Warhol and Ono, and released these terrible viruses. And now they're ready to listen to the climate change thing. Well, it's good that we're listening to the climate change thing, because that's something that we've needed to be listening to. But the social history is not, let the social history be damned. The social history still is what the social history is. And, I think you should just let me be me and let Greta be Greta, and not try to blame her for my telling the truth about what happened. Maybe there are people who aren't doing that. Wouldn't that be nice to know? Maybe there are people who say Greta is great, just let Mac be Mac. Because, the last thing in the world I want is to interfere with what she's saying needs to be done in terms of social change. I rely on her to tell the truth. She's my hero. She's an amazing person.